you look at Mapungubwe, we have your ancient gold statues, we have your diamond jewelry and all these things. And the question is, how were these people mining and processing these things?
Exactly. Now, here's the problem, you see, with colonized education. There's always an attempt to look for somebody else who came from somewhere to come and mine those things, create those things, build those things. No, it can't be Africans. It must be somebody else from China, from wherever. You know, just like, for instance, the Zimbabweans. For a long time, people were taught that no, it can't be Africans. Some other advanced people from somewhere. You know. But because we have lost our languages and our culture and our, in that sense, our own history, many of us believe that. It's only lately that people are saying, no, it can't be.
Funny enough, Albert Einstein is known as the most intelligent human being to exist. And his theory was that time and space is not separate. They are simultaneous. And he was actually awarded for that. But if you look at our language, time in isiZulu is kati. And then space in isiZulu is umkati. So already we had acknowledged that way before Einstein had acknowledged that time and space is not separate.
It's already there. It's embedded in the language.
You know, adapt or be left behind. That's the whole concept of today's society. Many parents are encouraging their children from a young age to speak English rather than their indigenous language. What are your thoughts on this new way of thinking?
You know, I have a problem with saying it's a new way of thinking. Actually, to me, it's the old way of thinking. The old way of colonial era, the old way of the apartheid. The new way of thinking, it's moving towards multilingualism. It's moving towards the rediscovery of forgotten, lost languages and culture. So it's really, a person who speaks like that tells me that he is of the old thinking, way of thinking, who says, no, you must only know English. To me, that's old way of thinking. It's not new at all. It's actually regressive. No, it's not progressive at all.
I read an article called Opportunity versus Identity, whereby a study was done which found that suicide rate among those that had suffered greater native loss was 6 times that of those who had suffered a lesser degree of language loss. This is quite shocking, apart from losing our ability to speak our native language. What else do you think of this loss?
It's very tragic that because you know, when you lose your language, you lose your sense of self of belonging somewhere, sense of identity, sense of self-worth. You know, you have lost something, and as I say sometimes that you have lost part of yourself, of your being, of who you are, of your humanity. You know, because the status of your language also reflects on you. If you allow your language to be downgraded, to be despised, to be ignored, it means that that's how you think about yourself too. You see, you do not actually value yourself a lot. And therefore, it has psychological and emotional effects. I mean, you hear people, you go around right here, somebody's always quiet. Never speaks. People are laughing, joking, and talking, all sorts of things. This person is quiet. And you later discover that it's because he can't speak.
Can't express himself.
He can't express himself. He's there, lonely in a corner.
It's not to say that he's he's quiet, he's a quiet person. It's just that he cannot express himself.
He cannot join in the conversation because he's marginalized.
I mean, uneducated, uncivilized, and savagery. Are these the words that still used when describing a person who's unable to speak English today? Or has society been more accepting on individuals who speak indigenous languages only?
Unfortunately, some people still use those terms: barbaric, savage, backward, and so on. And unfortunately, even worse, some of us as Africans, we have internalized those things. We actually do more. We are the ones who speak more of those things than even white people. We are the ones who are actually trampling on our own languages. But that's an unfortunate part. But savage, barbaric, it's a term which was used to demean us. It's always used to demean the other, the one you don't understand. Because there's always that thing that if you don't understand something, you can't control it. So if you don't understand the language, you can't control the person who speaks that language. So the best thing is that you should destroy that language so that you introduce your own language so that you can control it.
And kind of limit their mental capacity.
Exactly.
And make them kind of dumb and not see the bigger picture.
Make them feel stupid.
The hope of liberal reform was that indigenous people could lose their unique identity and melt into a dominant culture. That statement was taken from John Raymer. This is happening in Africa, whereby indigenous people are choosing the dominant culture by being more westernized.
Yes, it's happening. And fortunately, I think, for me, that while it is happening on one side, increasingly the opposite is happening on the other side. When people are... This assimilation is one of the biggest problems all indigenous people have faced, not only Africans, the assimilation into the dominant culture, which is always a culture imposed on them. Because of this idea also of barbarism, that if I stop using my culture, I speak my language, I speak that out, then I'll be less barbaric. So we are always running away from ourselves, and then at some point we have got to stop and be ourselves.
Definitely. I mean, colonization teaches us to hate ourselves. We are told that we are nothing until we adopt the new ways of the colonizer, until we become the colonizer. In your own words, or in your own opinion, what role did colonization play in the loss of indigenous language, and how can indigenous people in today's society? Colonization teaches us to hate ourselves. We are told that we are nothing until we adopt the ways of the colonizer, until we become the colonizer. In your own opinion, what role did colonization play in the loss of indigenous language, and how can indigenous people in today's society regain their identity?
Yeah, it's possible to do that. If you regain your identity and your language, you can reconnect to actually your own place, your own land, not only the culture. So because destroying your language is also actually separating you from what you have. Not only your culture, but the possession of your land. You are no longer part of that land. You are something else. You are already created. The colonizer has become your God because he has recreated you in his own image and is divorcing you from the land because he can now take the land, you see, and everything you own. He can own you. He controls your thinking. He tells you about his culture, and he's the master, he's the expert in that culture. You don't know anything about it. And that's the unfortunate part of adopting Western civilization. Because a lot of people have not really studied the history of Western civilization. They really know very little about it. They hear the sanitized versions we are taught at school. The other terrible things, they are not in the syllabus.
You touched on the connection with land. And does that mean that we connect with ancestors, or it's a sense of belonging to say that you belong in this country?
It's also ancestry. Origins are very important because you know you are anchored, your roots are in a particular place, and the ancestors, by the way, we always talk about where we bury our umbilical cords, in African culture. People will ask you, where's your umbilical cord? Buried. And that means that it's the direct connection with the land. And the way we describe the topography on everything, you know, it's a connection to the land. They are descriptive, you know. And you know, when a person speaks about certain things, that's where it comes from, just from listening to him.
I mean, in today's society or in modern society, people say their culture is demonic or their ancestors are demonic, Satanism. People say it's ancient, it's old, you know. So, I mean, it's a bit difficult for people to even understand.
That's the problem. The demonization started a long time ago. You must remember also the demonization of the vilification. It's not only from the European Christian side, it also came from the Arab Islamic side, which actually preceded. It came before the European Christian invasion, the Arab. And so even they did not see anything valuable about African culture. They were the first to demonize. And so demonization is actually part of subjugation. You know what they usually said, the colonizer? They talked about gold, glory, and God, the three G's. Gold. They wanted gold, they wanted the wealth of the place they were colonizing. Glory, they wanted to elevate their own race, the white race. And of course, God. They wanted to elevate their own religion by replacing your religion with theirs. So it was always the three G's, they went together. Gold, glory, and God.
And just to touch on the connection with land and the biodiversity, is that you find even in Basotho culture, Diale, which is my spirit animal. And that alone shows that connection
with nature, with the biodiversity you were talking about. You know, that it connects you. Crocodile. I'm a person of the crocodile. Actually, I must protect Queen.
I mean, in an article written by Fiona Snickers, she applauded you alongside Angela Makaula for normalizing race relations in crime fiction as it is in the real life South Africa. What was this your aim in the book Counting Coffin, in making the black villains believable?
When you write a book, there are many. You don't actually have one aim. You know, we have different aims. You know, and different people read into your writing different things. But it's true that I was portraying black heroes and villains, not in a. I was trying to break the stereotypes of black people committing crimes always for senseless reasons, you know, senseless crimes, random crime, you know. That at least, even if you totally condemn the crime, but at least it makes sense. There's intelligence. It's not just random, senseless, you know. So, and I was normalizing them to get away from the stereotype. Because that has always been my aim, you know, to break the stereotypes. You know, when you watch TV, you watch movies, you read books, you see the same people, black people, over and over again. When you read the book, the first page, first paragraph, you meet the black character. You can tell, actually tell what this character is going to do throughout. Because we have read so many times about the same black people. That's why they say Hollywood has been telling the same story about black people since it started. They have not changed.
I mean, funny enough, as much as black people may be painted as bad or evil, colonization has stripped a lot away from us. Our knowledge, our language, our wealth, our resources. And after that, they would expect us to be as normal as them, you know. So wouldn't you think that also contributes to that hate that is portrayed in media?
is that we are actually incomplete human beings as far as how we are portrayed. There's always something missing. We are not complete human beings. We might talk about, hey, we are all human beings and so on, but the way other people look at us, and sometimes even we ourselves look at us, we are always having that there's something missing.
As a black author, have you felt pressure to write purely in English, as well as adapt the westernized way of writing in order to broaden your audience?
That actually goes without saying. There's always that pressure. That, for instance, when I started contacting one publishing company, they sent me, they sent me a list of a paper, let me say, of what they had published at that time. And they say that unfortunately they can't publish books in African languages because they go nowhere. Nobody reads them. They tried before to write in, I think, in Xhosa, to publish in Xhosa and Sesotho, and those books just did not go in. So they will try in that thing they sent me, that email, later. They might try again.
Okay.
So it is that direct and indirect pressure.
What do you think is the reason why black people may not read our indigenous books? Or should I say South Africans?
I think our books have been too identified with the school system. They've got nothing really to do with other things. Just things you read and write an exam and pass and forget. They are too, and many people associate school with bad times. Unfortunately, so they are happy to leave school and books and everything.
Yeah, but besides that, I mean, young people embrace Shakespeare. They read his books. They even do certain plays. I mean, so much praise is given to
Shakespeare.
Yeah, Shakespeare and other white.
It's not by accident. It's not by accident. It's by design. That we must push our books, and white people are very good at pushing their own things, promoting and preserving their own things. So now we are very bad at that. And so it is access. They are accessible. Right now you find you write a book in Setswana, it goes to a bookshop, it's put somewhere there where nobody sees. And then Shakespeare is here in front of you. You can't miss it.
Wouldn't you say also another reason why the books are not selling is because many black people don't have that knowledge, that indigenous knowledge to say that, guys, we need to embrace our languages because, you know.
I think so. And I also think that we must also start writing things people can enjoy. We know we spend a lot of time lecturing people in books. You read a book, it's a lecture. It's supposed to be a novel. You're supposed to, people should enjoy, read. Just, then we come to, if they read it a second time, then they'll get the stuff. But let them enjoy it as well. As one Canadian writer said, that every good novelist is a moralist at bottom, but he's also an entertainer.
I mean, I asked the earlier questions to say, why did our ancestors resort to writing and resort to oral and writing? And they said oral, as you said, oral is more engaging and it's direct, and you cannot miss the whole message behind it. Right? So don't you think maybe as young people we embrace more of, you know, the oral side of getting knowledge rather than having to read it all the time, which may be boring you know, because there are many of us young people who may think reading is boring, you know, reading 600-page book. I'd rather let someone who has read it come and summarize it and, you know, and properly explain it to me so that I can understand it better.
Not only like a lot of people, they have that idea. Their books are boring. They are intimidated by the size, the idea, the very exercise of reading. And coming back to that, the association with school. You know, hey, this is work, this is hard work. You know, hey, please wait a bit with your book. And also with the idea that they are not practical.
Yes.
Yeah. They do not, after reading a book, so what? There's that idea. And it's unfortunate that even prominent people in our society do not see the value of books, the value of cultivating the imagination of young people. Right now, we always talk about the Asian tigers. We don't mention that those people read. Right now, China, they are the country that publishes more fiction than any other country. They've overtaken Europe and America. So it's not only things that should be, you should actually exercise the imagination. American authors first stop when they publish a book, Asia, Japan, and so on and so on. You see, those people read. You know, as someone said, one of the things to measure a country is by counting its bookstores. You see, but that was a long time. Now you can go to Amazon, I think.
So buy online.
But at that time, in what you were saying, that to measure a country's potential for success, you must look at how many people read and read voluntarily.
What are the challenges do you face as an indigenous language writer? The challenges you have faced as a...
The challenges of being an indigenous writer, besides a lack of audience and having to, you know, be required to, you know, fashion your writing to fit into the school system. It's also lack of, when you go to publishers, one thing they always complain about is that you don't have good editors. You know, so you find that books are published in African language and they are terrible. There are all sorts of things which should have been picked up by an editor. Because if I write here, the publisher doesn't take my manuscript and publish it as it is. It goes through a process, filter. People read the book and they write to me and say, we don't get this. What is this? So, you know, and it needs somebody who knows the language, who understands the culture. So there's a shortage of such people, you know, who are employed by publishers. They say, I don't know how true it is, that they don't find such people. They have a difficulty finding such people. So it's no use for me asking you to go and edit a book. Then you say I must go and edit it. I can't. I can speak Zulu. But I can't go and edit.
What are the ways in which you can probably promote or ignite the reading culture amongst us as South Africans?
We must do an old thing which Americans did very well. Write books for leisure, for entertainment. One or two, out of that 100, one or two will be good books. Let people enjoy reading. I think that is one of popularized. It must not be something where you have to sweat when you are reading and tear your hair out and things. Let me go and go there across the street. I'll come back. No, let it be. Out of those 100 books, at least 2 of them will be good.
And I think it also needs to be also practical, you know.
And
relate to it.
Real life and everything that is happening.
Kind of like a Romeo and Juliet.
Something that captures the imagination, especially of young people. Do like the Jesuits. Catch them young. You can't start now. People are old, they have got other responsibilities, and then you want to start them there. You catch them young.
No, sir, thank you for your time. Thank you for spending your day with us today.
Thank you for coming to see me.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, all in all, I can say that it's an imperative that we must actually meet to raise the level of the status of our languages and make them useful. It's no use being sentimental about them if they are not useful and they don't add value. But we must also try and recognize their inherent value and keep it. We must preserve, protect, and promote our own languages because no one else will. Like in many other things, if we don't do things for ourselves, no one cares. And to show that we care about ourselves, our place in the world, and our future role in the world, we cannot leave our languages behind, because to lose our languages, we'll have lost ourselves and will not add anything to the discussions and that are going to be facing us in the future. Right now, people are asking very difficult questions about the economy, about the climate, and we are not there because we don't have a language to actually address those things. The people who know have the language are left behind, are left out of these discussions simply because they can't speak a European language or English in this country. So their knowledge, their ideas are not part of the discussion. And therefore, we are cheating ourselves. We are selling ourselves short. Thank you.